Why am I doing that? Hi, it's me. Homebrew Wednesday time again, chaps. This week, what are we going to be doing this week? Well, I'm going to be bottling the hot cider that we did from secondary. We're going to be doing that. I'm going to be bottling that, and I'll have a little bit of a sip of that, see what that's like. I'm going to be putting the hot cider that I did in the video last week into secondary, because I think I need to do that, as that was basically all thrown in the primary and it's rather messy, and we need to probably put it in the secondary, get it away from all the crap, give it a week or two to clear, and I may use some finings on it, may not, see how I feel, and we'll go from there. The other stuff we're going to be doing this week is a lager. Yeah, not cider, is it? Lager? No, not my fault though, is it? You know, I mean, if you like cider, doesn't mean you don't like lager. Everyone likes a little bit of lager, don't they? Surely they do. Well, I don't mind lager really. It depends on what sort of type of lager it is. I mean, if you go into a pub and you buy yourself a pint of lager, most of those I'll drink. You know, some of them are a bit rank. You know, if I go to the supermarket and I fancy a lager, I might buy the usual mass-produced crap like Carlin or Coors. I do like a little bit of Coors. But what I'm going to do is, because I've never done one before, and there's always a first time for everything, I'm going to be giving a go at a Cooper's kit. Now, what I'm also going to be doing is showing you some of the stuff you can use in that Cooper's kit. That is, there's a packet of Brew Enhancer. That's Cooper's own Brew Enhancer. I've also found a packet of Brew Enhancer made by Young's, I believe. So we're going to be taking a look at that. But I think this week I'm going to be doing my own Brew Enhancer. Yeah. So we'll go through that a little bit later. So that's all to come. Happy Homebrew Wednesday, chaps. See you in a bit. Hi guys, you're probably noticing there's a bit of a mess on here. Guess where guess where this is? This is my little brewing area in my conservatory. This mat here is really there to stop the cabinet underneath it from getting all the crap on it. I'll try and hold this as steady as I can, guys. This is obviously there to keep the temperature in the brew at a consistent temperature. It's set to 19 degrees. I'm not sure whether you can see that on there. Obviously it's not switched on yet. That, well, the end of it up until about there will go in the bucket when I clean it and sanitize it, because obviously if I'm putting this in my brew, it's going to have to be sanitized as well. And these little plugs that you use to stick onto the side of the fermenting bucket will also be sterilized. Over here we've got some VWP cleaner. I've shown you that before. That's what we use to sanitize our brew. Over here I'm going to be using this to measure the different types of sugars, spray malt and body brew, which I'm going to be using. A body brew is essentially maltodextRIN. I don't know if you can see that on the packet there. MaltodextRIN. There you go, guys. So you can see I'm not having you on. Obviously I've got a spoon here to stir it all. I've got this turkey baster to use to get the juice out of the bucket and into this, which we're going to be using to measure the gravity. Obviously all of these things will be sterilized. I'm not going to show you that, no. There are other videos on YouTube showing you how to sterilize things. Check out Gary Smith's channel.
he goes into it in depth. I'm also going to be doing, this time around, I'm going to be using both a hydrometer and whatever these things are called. Refractometers, that's what they're called, guys. Of course they are, but you knew that, you're not silly. Over the back here we've got our spoons, obviously. Again, that's all going to be sanitized, as is the plate sitting under it, which we're going to be using for putting all of our tools on later on. Here, there we go, we've got a magic wand. That's basically a happy bottler thing, and we'll put that on the bucket if we need to bottle our beer. That will help us later on. Don't need to worry about that just yet though. Oh look, there's my finger, where did that come from? So, we've got brewing sugar, we've got maltodextROSE, and we've got spray malt light. I'm not going to be using this Cooper's kit, I don't think. This is a Cooper's Brew Enhancer 2. Now if we turn it over and we look at the ingredients on the back there, we can see the ingredients are dextrose, light dry malt and maltodextRIN. All of which, folks, we've got over here. So when I come to do the brew later on, I'll tell you about the measurements I'm going to be using, because I want to make up my own sort of Lakeybloke brew improver, shall we call it, Mark 1. Let's hope Mark 1 is up to the job. Hello guys, me again. This time I'm all glassy up. Yeah, look at this. This is the result of the hopped brew experiment. The first one I did. This was done in secondary. The one that we did in the last week's video was done in primary. Look at that, it's all bottled up. And how well this tells you about the light and how good it is. It's a little bit cloudy, but then I would expect that. After all, we've had hops in there bobbing about all over the place. That is primed with just over 1 teaspoon of sugar. I used dextrose because I had some lying around. You can use whatever sugar you want, as I've said before. It doesn't have to be brewing sugar, doesn't have to be any other sugar. Whatever you want to use is up to you. Now to do me, is it? It's your brew. It's not my brew, it's your brew. My brews are different to yours, you see, and what you'll do, hopefully, is you'll learn something and you'll go away and you'll tweak it and you'll do your own thing. I had a little smell earlier and a tiny little sip when I bottled it, and I've got to be honest, I quite like the smell and the taste. It was very citrusy, which is what you would expect. I wasn't expecting to like it really, guys, I'll be honest with you. But so far it tastes and smells alright to me, and I'm sure it will improve with age. I'm going to give it maybe a couple of weeks at room temperature to carbonate, and then I'll put it back in the shed, and I'll probably leave it in there for another couple of weeks before I give it a little go. So I'm looking forward to that. But this was just a quick update to show you that I have actually bottled one of the brews that we did, one of the hopped ciders, and now folks, we're going to be going back to brewing lager. So here we go. Hi guys, right, here's our fermenting bucket. As you can see, I've taken that off, the little spigot there that you use to pour your beer. Look inside, it's a little bit dirty. So we do need quite a bit of sterilising / sanitizing. Whatever word you want to use, it doesn't really matter. Brewers tend to use the same, you know, sanitizing and sterilising to mean the same thing. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. You can see I've taken that off. The reason I've taken that off is to give it a good old clean and sanitize in the sink. So I've done that separately. Once that's done, I'll put it back on there and I'll fill this up with hot warm water, and we'll put some VWP in there, and we'll then put all of our bits and bobs over here into there, leave it for 10-15 minutes, and then we'll have our sanitized equipment, and then we can start brewing. Right guys, so there's our fermenter full up with sterilising water. I added 2 teaspoons of VWP per gallon, so we're talking 10 teaspoons, probably just a little bit more. All of the equipment is in the bottom of the vessel. You can't see it obviously because it's all frothed up and bubbled up. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave that for 10 to 15 minutes, and then we'll empty it out. Now you're thinking to yourself, how the bloody hell is Roy going to get all of that stuff out of that fermenting bucket? Well, there's a number of ways you can do that. You can either get a hose, chuck it in there, siphon it out that way, or normal siphon, or you can do what I do, because I don't have a brewing shed as such, and I'm nowhere near taps or hoses or anything like that. You can turn this upside down, let all the water come through the tap and into one of these gallon bowls that I've got, that I use essentially just to fill up my fermenting bucket. And it obviously it's going to take a little while longer, but once all of this is out, I'll pop into the garden and I'll hose it down with clean water, just to make sure I get all the crap out and stuff, so it's all nice and clean. One of the things I haven't shown you yet is what we're going to be brewing. This week I'm mostly going to be brewing Muntons Connoisseur's Continental Lager 40 pint beer kit. So what I'm going to do basically guys is take my lovely pan here, put it on the stove, fill it half up with hot water, boil for a bit, sit this in the pan just to make sure that we loosen up all the juice that's in there, the malt extract and whatever you want to call it, and then hopefully that will be nice enough to just basically chuck into our vessel. And if there's any left in the can, then what we'll do is we'll just pour a little bit of hot water in there just to make sure we get all the stuff out. Alright? Right guys, one last minute thing I thought of is to make sure that the can itself is also sterilised, the top of it. So I basically just turned it upside down and poured some of the sanitizing liquid that was in the bucket into this little bowl here, and just basically left the tin in there for a little bit. Again, 5 or 10 minutes depending upon what sanitizer you're using, should be fine. Okay guys, so what you can see now is we've got an empty tin here. Now I poured all the malt extract into the fermenting bucket. I also had to use a little bit of boiling water in there to get all of the malt extract out, because it's very, very thick. And this one is going to be quite dark. It's supposedly a light amber lager. So we'll see how it comes out. If you take a look inside, you can see, look at that, there's quite a lot of head on there, and that's because I've added 300 grams of maltodextROSE, and that gives your brew a little bit more head. I've also used 700 grams of normal brewing sugar and 500 grams of light malt. So that looks like it's going to be quite a frothy brew, guys. I've given it a lovely, lovely, lovely stir, and now I just need to top it up with cold water. So there we go, guys, look at that. We've got 5 gallons of liquid. However, temperature is 26 degrees, so it's far, far, far too warm to put the yeast in yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a little bit of a stir now. I've put all the cold water in. I'm going to leave it for a little bit to for the temperature to come down to around about 20, Then we'll put the thermostat in to make sure that it keeps. It shouldn't be too much of a problem because we're not quite yet towards the back end of summer, but just in case we have any cold nights, it will make sure it's around about 19 to 20 degrees, and it will continue fermenting. We shouldn't have any problems. Hi guys, me again. Now we're at the point now where all we're doing really is just waiting for the brew to cool down. Don't know how long that's going to take. I might have to take it into the shed because it's a bit cooler in there, because at the moment we're in the conservatory, and although it's not baking hot today, for whatever reason, wonderful British weather that we have, as it's a little bit hotter than it usually is. The brew at the moment is standing at around 26 degrees. I need it to be a lot cooler than that. It needs to be between 19 and about 21 degrees. So it needs to cool down a fair amount before we can put any yeast in there, otherwise the yeast is just going to go and not do very much, and we'll end up with a duff brew. Obviously we don't want that to happen. So let's briefly then go over what we've done. Obviously you start off with sterilising all your brews. Sorry, all your equipment I should say. You don't really want to sterilise your brew, otherwise you'll end up drinking sterilising liquid and that'll be horrible. So you sterilise all your kit. Things like this wonderful thing, the paddle, as you can see. I've been doing a little bit of a stir just now to make sure it's all nicely going. So we've sterilised any spoons you use, stirring spoons, yeah. We've sterilised the fermenting bucket, we've sterilised the lid. Yes folks, lots of people, whenever they're doing brews, forget about the lid. Yeah, in the fermenting bucket. I did it. I forgot about it. So I just basically ran into the kitchen, got myself a bowl, put some sterilising powder in, filled it up with hot water, and sterilised the lid in the bowl of the kit that I just made up in the kitchen. As long as you do it, and you'll know if you've done it or not, because you'll get to the end and you'll go, oh poo, I forgot about the lid. And there's always something you forget. I also forgot the thermostat, but as we don't know whether we need to be using that yet, it might not necessarily be a problem. So I did eventually, however, sterilise it. I threw it in with the lid on the fermenting vessel. So it's so easy, folks. The point I'm getting at is it's so easy to forget what you need to sterilise. And you know, when you're doing brews, you use a fair amount of stuff. You know, I mean, even scissors to open up the yeast is ideally needs to be sterilised. You could argue that you're going over the top a bit by sterilising scissors to open the yeast, and also sterilising, you know, like a tin opener to open your tins. But you know, it's best to overdo it than underdo it, isn't it? And it only takes one minute little bug or something to get in your brew, and it's all gone. It's rubbish. Which is why I also sterilised the lid on the tin. Bear with me a second, guys. As you can see, there's the tin. It's in a bit of a state at the moment because it was put in boiling water to get all of the stuff out. I'll just turn that round here so you can see I've got 99.9% of the stuff out. You're always going to have a little bit left over on the lid, but what I find the best thing to do is when you put boiling water into your kit to get rid of the, you know, make sure you get the last bit and the dregs and stuff. When you pour it into your fermenting bucket, do it that way, and all the hot water will run down the lid, and it will take all of that crap with it as well. However, you're not going to get everything, you know, it's impossible. But as long as you sterilise, sanitise, sterilise slash sanitise, whatever, don't really matter. Some people say sanitise. I know there's a difference between the two, blokes, so you don't need to leave messages or send me emails to tell me that. It doesn't matter, right? The important thing is that your kit is clean. That's all I'm getting at. Sanitise, 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 sanitise. Right? The next step we did once we've emptied our bucket and given it a good old rinse around, you may not need to do that if you're using Star San, remember, or any other sort of spray-on cleanser. Not everything needs it, but VWP does, so I just gave it a quick rinse and made sure I got, you know, as much off as I could, and that's fine. The next thing we did, as I said earlier, folks, is we stood this in some hot water for about 5-10 minutes just to, you know, soften the contents a little bit, and we poured that into the fermenting bucket. Then, folks, what did I do next? Well, I added my sugars, my malt and my maltodextrose, and I've got somewhere here, guys, the exact measurements, and I'll get back to you in a sec. Hello, it's me again. Right, so I used 500 grams of light malt, 700 grams of brewing sugar, and 300 grams of maltodextrose. I'm looking all over like that to make sure I can remember the names. Maltodextrose, the fact is with that is that it gives your brew more body. Obviously the malt will infuse it with more flavour, and the dextrose is really to bring your alcohol up a bit, although malt also has is able to ferment, but not as much as normal sugar. Obviously maltodextrose, the amount of that is able to ferment is so minute, not even worth mentioning. So you can't use that to bring your alcohol up, and you can't use that, you certainly can't use that to prime your beers. Pointless, won't do anything. So it's really there just to make sure you give your lager enough body. Get it how you like it, really. Now obviously this is my first one, I'm experimenting, so it may not be any good. I might not like it, but just because I don't like it, as I've said before, don't mean you won't like it. So we'll see how that turns out. The next thing I did was I poured in 6 pints of hot water, sorry, boiling water. Difference between hot water and boiling water, folks. And then we gave it a ruddy good stir in the bucket, because obviously we've added all those ingredients and it's thickened up, and you want to make sure that you loosen it as much as you can, because the malt extract and the maltodextrose tend to get clumpy, and you want to make sure you get rid of all of those little clumps. So you need to give it a good old stir for at least 5 to 10 minutes, you know, and when I say stir, I mean stir. Some people, folks, have drills, and what they've done is they've got a little wooden stick, sellotaped the spoon to the wooden stick, get the drill, and they use that to stir their brews. I can't be bothered with any of that stuff. I've got a spoon and I've got a hand, so I'll just use that, and I haven't got any sticks around, and my brewing spoon won't fit into the drill I've got anyway, so I don't really care, you know what I mean? That's what we've got hands for. But if you want to be clever, you can. It's your choice. So once we've poured in the 6 pints of hot water, as I say, we give it a big old stir, and then we fill it up to the 5-gallon mark with cold water. We also, what do we do after that, folks? We give it another ruddy good stir. Yes, nothing like a ruddy good stir in, is there? And that's it. Hopefully we'll be able to get the temperature down. A little bit worried about that. I might have to put it in the shed, as I said. At the moment it's going down really slowly. It's between 24 and 25 now. It was 26. It's coming down slowly but surely. I'm a bit reluctant to leave the lid off at this stage, so I'm just going to let it cool on its own, and I might have to move it into the shed. We'll see what happens. But once it's around 20 degrees, a degree either way, folks, we can then put our yeast in. Give it a good old stir again. Whenever you put in yeast in, you want to make sure you give it a good old stir. And we'll sit and wait, and we'll see what happens, and we'll revisit it in a week or two. Of course, one thing that we have to do, and I haven't done yet, but the reason I haven't done it is because I want to wait until the temperature comes down and then I'll do everything in one go, is take a reading. Now, I don't know if you remember at the beginning of this video, I was going to use one of these, hydrometer, and also over here, folks, I've got a refractometer. Now, everybody knows how to use a hydrometer, right? All you do is you get your turkey basting thing, you take out some of the juice, you put it into your measuring container, you drop your hydrometer in, and you take a reading. Easy. Well, the thing about that is, it takes a bit of time, really. How accurate is it? It's probably as accurate as you're going to get, but not if you've got one of these. Now, these are allegedly, and I say allegedly, a lot more accurate than the hydrometers. But I've had mixed results, folks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a measurement using a hydrometer and a measurement using this. Now, with this refractometer, what we do is we get one of these little piping sticks. We take a tiny little bit of juice out. We only need a little bit. We open this up and we put a few drops on here. We look down the end here, and inside you can see there's a little bit blue in there, folks, but you may or may not be able to see some lines in there. You can see it'll give you a reading, and what we do is we run that through a calculator. Again, refractometer calculators and hydrometer calculators are on the internet, folks. So we'll run both of those figures through our calculators and we'll see what we get. I'm hoping that they'll be the same, but I suspect it won't be. So it may well be that the refractometer is not calibrated correctly, or it's duff, and it's of no use to me. But it's a good opportunity to give it a go and give it a try. So that's all for now, folks. I may do a little update later on with regards to the temperature. If not, it's been a pleasure. Happy Homebrew Wednesday. Speak to you soon. Cheers.